You got to bear in mind, coppers were on about £20 a month. You know what I mean? 2001, 20 quid a month wages, maybe. Very, very bad. He said, you rich. He said, how long are you here for? Us a week. He said, you have 600 quid for 1 week? He said, then where you go? I said, we go overnight train. On the overnight train from 10:30, it's 10 hours to St. Petersburg. He said, how much more money you have? I said, well, another 600 quid in the hotel. And he looked up. He's a cop in uniform. He said, he rich. Very rich. That was a pretty scary time. I was more concerned about then than about the guy I stood next to on the train. I thought he was going to knife and shoot me. When that copper said you were rich, and they looked at each other, and I thought, oh my God, we could be taken out in the middle of nowhere and fucking put a bullet in the back of our head. They'd go back to the hotel and take the money. But they didn't. You know what I mean? It was just me panicking in a way, right? So that was the end of it. We got a crime number, and off we went. And sooner or later, we got on that overnight train to St. Petersburg, 10:30 at night, and it says, lock your doors. Lock your doors because you don't know what's going to come in. Do you know? Can you remember? I don't know if you knew. You young guys will not know, but us old guys remember what a carriage is, and you had the corridor, and then you had the kind of sleeper carriages or the benches. That's what kind of thing it was. And instead of sharing with other people I didn't know, me and my wife, there was 4 bunks in there, and I booked 2, one for her and one for me. And I was at the top because I'm a gentleman, right? And she was on the bottom. But we tied the door up with a door handle after. But before that, we were all in the corridor. And I was drinking beer. My wife was drinking beer. Some people were drinking beer. Everybody was out there drinking beer. But 2 of the guys who was English, who we met, and they were travelling up to St. Petersburg, and they were drinking vodka. Sooner or later on the journey, about an hour after we got on the train, 2 hours, some gun-totting cops come up the corridor. And said, you, room, pointing to me, room. I said, why? He said, you, room, fuck off, room. And he said to the guys drinking vodka, you stay. So I said to the guys who were drinking vodka, if you get any problems, just fucking kick my door, knock on my door and I'll come out and we'll sort it out, right? So I go in and I didn't tie my door up then. And then eventually I had a lot of arguing and a lot of going on, so I went out. And the cops had gone, but I said to the guy, what was all that about? He said, they wanted to fine him. Fine him? Money for drinking vodka. To drink vodka, they had to pay a tax. And the cops wanted them to pay a tax. But the guy was pretty good. He was pretty tough. So he said to these cops, I'll give you money. You give me a receipt that I paid you money. And the cops wouldn't have it. He said, if I give you $20, $30, $50, I want a receipt for that $50, you know. And the cops bottled it and they kind of went, which is good. Otherwise, it could have fucking kicked them off the train through the middle of the night. 8 hours before we got to St. Petersburg in the middle of nowhere. I said, fair play to you, mate. So then I went back and tied my door up, and then we woke up at St. Petersburg as the train pulls in. So, yeah, we got turned over in Moscow, but so what? I've been to Kingston, Jamaica, very, very dangerous. I've been to Turkey, Istanbul. I've been to a lot of places over the years, or 28 places around the world. So I'd never get scared, intimidated. And that was an experience. But you know what? St. Petersburg was beautiful. But when we got to St. Petersburg, I was there for a week, and we had a tourist guide. Okay, we had a tourist guide, and that tourist guide, I found out the guy was a translator for Putin. Putin was born in St. Petersburg. This is where this guy had come from, St. Petersburg. Okay, now he was a translator, but before he grew up with Putin and he went all through school with Vladimir Putin. And I'm very interested in politics, always have been, fascinated about him, fascinated about Moscow. So I kind of spent all my week asking this guy what kind of a man Vladimir Putin was. He grew up with him in school. He went through the KGB with him together in all the departments. Vladimir Putin was in the KGB, and he was so articulate and so intelligent. He became a manager in those departments up through the KGB. What he was a patriot, and he was a great man. And it was fascinating to find out there was me on holiday, and I'm finding out about one of the most powerful men in the world, Vladimir Putin. From that day on, I've always respected Vladimir Putin, because what I was told, he was a patriot, he cares about his people. All this bullshit, all this media you hear around the world about Vladimir Putin this, Vladimir Putin that, about what a devious arsehole he is. I actually found out a lot about Vladimir Putin, and do you know what? I respect the guy. I would trust my life with Vladimir Putin than with Theresa May, without a shadow of a doubt whatsoever. He loves his people. He's a patriotic guy. He does what it takes. Do you know what? If you've got a double agent that's crossing your country, when you become a double agent, when you become a spy, you are told you're going to die. You can die. Eventually, if someone gets older, you're going to die. Now, if you're a double agent, that's even worse. All right? So, if you're a double agent or you're a spy, you deserve the consequences. Now, when they go on about Vladimir Putin, about him attempting to murder him in Salisbury, to me, utter fucking fairy tale. Sorry about the swearing. Utter fairy tale bullshit. Because that guy was in prison in Russia for 6 years. And Vladimir let him come to England. Now, if Vladimir wanted that guy out of the way, dead, he had 6 years while he was in prison to have got rid of him without anyone knowing in Russia or anyone knowing in the West, in England, in France, in Germany, America, anywhere. He would have disappeared. So you've got to look at this. Vladimir Putin had 6 years to dispose of this guy, okay? Also, it's Vladimir's presidential election this week or next week. And you've got the World Cup coming up. Why would Vladimir Putin put all that at stake with some fairy tale cock and bull story about trying to poison somebody in Salisbury in England where he lived for 8 years? If Vladimir Putin had a change of heart and he wanted to kill him after he released him and let him come to England, don't you think they could have found him in 8 years and killed him without anybody knowing whatsoever in England? He could have disappeared in the middle of the night, okay? But he didn't. And you get this bloke with a suspected poison attack that's not even enough to kill him. And they said the copper who was contaminated was seriously ill, but he gave an interview. Now, how can you make an interview if you're seriously ill? Now, come on, I'm not a rocket scientist. If I can work it out, you can work it out by doing your research and whatever, right? And Portadown, it is like the kind of atomic chemical place for the British military, okay? That's only a couple of miles away. How do they know someone never took it all contaminated, went to the restaurant, picked up a glass and it poisoned this guy and his daughter who sat down there before? Who sat in that pub or having a meal before and touched all the cutlery, touched all the table, touched all the glasses, all the sauce, all the salt and pepper, all the condiments? How do they know he never passed it on to somebody? Or something happened like that? Without a shred of evidence, Boris Johnson said within 2 hours in the Commons, it's Russian. It's got something to do with Russia. They're flying all these allegations, all these accusations about is Russia, is Vladimir Putin, before they've even solved it. And the cheeky bitch Theresa May demands within 24 hours Russia answers to it. Answers to what? They don't know what's going on. Why is Vladimir Putin going to offer what is... He hasn't even been accused. He's been accused, but there's no evidence. He shouldn't have to prove his guilt or his innocence. If they can't prove that he's guilty and he's got the facts and have got the evidence to say, look, this is all the evidence, this is all the facts, we think it's you. Answer to it. Why should he answer to it? Why should he be dictated to by Theresa May? Theresa May, who the hell does she think she's, some kind of a school mistress? You got to tell me what happened in 24 hours. Who the fuck is she? Who the hell is Theresa May to say to President Putin, you've got to answer to this in 24 hours? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Do you know what? There was no word from Russia. They're not commenting. Why should they? It's pathetic. It's bullshit. Do you know what? When Theresa May and all the rest of Europe accused the Russians of interfering in elections, look at this. This is on the eve, the World Cup. This is on the eve of Vladimir Putin's re-election. Who's interfering in elections? Who is interfering in government elections? Stirring all the shit up about Vladimir Putin. Now, What about Trump? They said Trump wanted, Russia wanted Trump to be president. Why would Russia want Trump to be president when Hillary Clinton, sold 20% of Americans' uranium? Wouldn't the Russians want Hillary Clinton to be president? Because she could sell everything. She sold him the uranium. She would sell him secrets. She would sell him personal details about every man in the military to Russia, because all she cares about is money. So Russia would have wanted Hillary Clinton to be president, surely? Isn't that logical? That's the way my mind works. Why would Vladimir Putin want Donald Trump, who's unbribable? He's not in the deep state. He's not in the New World Order. He's a billion.